Hello everybody, my name is Player Negative, and today we are breaking down the development history and lore of one of the Nintendo Entertainment System's cornerstone series. I'm of course talking about Punch-Out, or Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, if you are a bit of an oldie but a goodie. So without further ado, let's get into this. Full disclosure, we are only addressing the games that are canon to the timeline. So games like Super Punch-Out will not be counted on this list, for you are not playing as Little Mac. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, before we get into the sweet juicy lore, we gotta talk about development history. It all started back in the 90s when Nintendo was working on a series of sports-based arcade games, one of them being the original Punch-Out series. This game was later on going to be ported onto the NES as a sports deal endorsement with the famous boxer Mike Tyson. Thus, the game was dubbed Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. However, there was a tiny little problem. You see, the original arcade game relied on the main character having a wireframe body in order to see the opponent in front of him. The NES did not have the hardware capability to do that, so they had to shrink the player down as a cutback, and thus Little Mac was born. The game was praised for having fluidly animated sprites, something not yet accomplishable with the Nintendo Entertainment System. You would fight across 12 countries with boxers who, even though the fact they're considered racial stereotypes, are still held in high regard to this day, before fighting the legend himself, Mike Tyson, who at the time was considered to be one of the hardest bosses in video games. In fact, he's still held on the list of one of the top 100 hardest bosses. However, it was all too short to last. After Mike Tyson's contract was about to expire, Nintendo were planning to renew it, but decided to not do it anyways due to Mike Tyson's legal issues between his wife and, multiple other allegations I'm not going to get into. Later on down the line though, even despite the endorsement being stripped off the game, people still played it. In fact, later on in the 90s, or like the 1990s, there was a sequel made called Super Punch-Out, which I'm going to get into why I don't count this game, and it's pretty simple. You're not playing as Little Mac, so it's not connected to the main story. However, after that, Nintendo decided to shelve Punch-Out for a short period of time so they could focus more on their flagship series like Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon. It wasn't until much later that we got the installment for the Wii, which was a continuation of the series and a continuation of Little Mac's story, showing as he hops out of retirement to put the gloves back on once again, alongside all of his rivals. After that, he was later put into Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, as well as Ultimate, becoming a character in both the competitive scene and casual scene that, despite his stature, is still a widely used character with a lot of range and versatility if you know what you're doing. Alright, so now that we got the development history out of the way, let's get into the actual lore. And the best place to start isn't actually the games, but rather the Nintendo Power Punch-Out comics. You see, these comics reveal a lot of depth about Little Mac's backstory, like the fact that Doc Lewis wasn't his first trainer and that he was actually considering retiring until Doc was willing to train him and take him under his wing. It also talks about how Doc used to be a heavyweight champion before he met Little Mac. While the comics do follow the same storyline as the games, it shows a lot more depth of what happens in between fights and the dynamic between Doc and Mac. It also shows the personalities of how Little Mac perceived each of his opponents as well as they perceived him. And yes, if you're wondering, that is Mario as the referee, just like in the NES game. There were also later on an updated comic book and manga depicting the more modern versions of the characters within the Punch-Out universe, taking more inspiration from both the NES and Wii interpretations of the game. Just like in the end of the games, Mac later beats Mike Tyson and earns the title of World Champion. However, it was all too short to last after losing the title to King Hippo. And that is where 15 years later, the story of Punch-Out Wii begins. Another thing that a lot of people probably don't know is that during the 2000s, there was a series of live-action Punch-Out commercials that also carried the series forward with its lore. talking about what each boxer was doing while Little Mac was retired. It also is where I got the source where the game takes 15 years after the first Punch-Out game. It's also love the fact that it's framed like a documentary of like each boxer ready to get back into the ring. It also makes the idea of a live-action Punch-Out movie more of a possibility than just a speculation. Though it's probably going to be animated, let's be honest. I don't think they could do some of these characters justice in live action. But honestly, I think they're pretty cool. If anything, maybe I could be a fighter. I look enough like Glass Joe under this thing to play him. Oh, Peep de France. Alright, I'm going to show you a sneak peek of the video right now.
It's the worst feeling that can happen to a fighter. You know, you're a world champion, all your dreams, you've accomplished them, and then it's suddenly like this, they just take it away from you. That punch cost me the WBBA title. After 15 years, it's going to be good to get back in the ring. I don't think anybody works harder than me, so I'm a very hard-working fighter. I'm probably one of the hardest working fighters of this generation. I can't afford to sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead, man. Right now, it's time to work.
Little Mac, once again, the best. What's up, man?
How long have I been with Doc?
Yeah.
A long time.
Big Hippo here, baby. Come on. Jab, take the move. Get to the body on Big Hippo. Come on.
I trust Doc.
Big Hippo. That's it. Come on, baby. Come on. Dance like a fly, bite like a mosquito. I don't know what that means, Doc. Don't know what it means? Come over here, I'll tell you.
What do I think of Little Mac's chances? Against Piston Hondo, we're going to be saying sayonara to him. That's Japanese for goodbye. Great Tiger ain't nothing but a little kitty cat.
He ain't got no arm. How he gonna hit you back?
King Hippo going to be the king of
There you go.
losing.
Hit, baby. Hit him.
You see, a comeback is like a yo-yo. You're going to go down, but you coming right back up. And then you may end up walking the dog.
There you go. Work it.
It's been 15 years since I stepped into the ring, but now it's hippo season, and I just got my hunting license.
They're coming back. 12 classic characters plus new ones in the all-new Punch-Out for Weii.
And from that game forward, there were also various other commercials that were made to promote it, like showing that Piston Honda owns a steakhouse or Grand Tiger became a music artist. The game itself is just really well made, with having a more 3D approach to what the original game was like, similar to the arcade game, while also paying homage to the original sprites. Honestly, people have been waiting for a sequel for a long time, but I don't think we're gonna get that in the form of a new Punch-Out game. No. You see, I believe there's a chance that Mac will step into the ring once again, and it all stems from the Mario movie. You see, if you watch very closely in Yoshi's flashback for a brief moment, and I mean a brief moment, you can see Little Mac running down the street. Many people have paused to the point of actually seeing this. And people are saying that this is the hint that we might get a Little Mac, a Punch-Out movie or a series based off of him. And it's already canonically shown that Punch-Out exists in the Mario universe, evidenced by the Punch-Out Pizzeria, showing a retired pair of green boxing gloves that belong to Mac. And we know that Mac eventually retires again at the end of Punch-Out Weii once you beat the game on hard mode. So this could be a sign that he's ready to put the gloves back on once again. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Player Negative, and I'll see you later. In the meantime, stay on your toes, Mac, baby. We're gonna give this goose a gander.